Welcome back to the tech stage, everybody. Next up, we have a really interesting session focusing on data, and in particular in the way it's being used for fan engagement purposes at all levels of a sport, inclusive of grassroots. We'll find out how the IBF and Spark Compass have combined to deliver curated, personalized experiences and content to fans and players alike, aggregating from multiple sources with a pretty simple mandate to deliver better outcomes for all the stakeholders of the sport. To deliver us through that, I have alongside me, in the virtual sense, I have alongside me IBF's Innovation and Business Development Director, Chris Neilson, and Spark Compass's CEO, Erik Bjontegard. Chris, Erik, great to have you with us. I hope you're both well, especially in San Diego. Erik, looks lovely. Do you want to just give a quick top line, Chris? I'll start with you as to sort of what your roles are, and then we can get into the presentation.
No, absolutely. Thank you, John. Yeah, so I'm the Innovation Business Development Director at the International Bowling Federation. I've just been here for just short of 10 months myself. Previously, I worked in the Olympic sports with the FRH hockey, and previous to that, I was working in broadcast in the UK with broadcasters such as ITV, and was at 5 years of BT Sport. So that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, this is Erik Bjontegard. Yep, I'm the CEO and founder of Total Communicator Solutions Inc. and the inventor of the patented Spark Compass platform. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. So very excited to be here, and thanks for including us.
Great, thanks guys. Well, we'll get into the presentation, then afterwards we'll obviously have plenty of time for questions. So anybody on Swapcard, please do fire your questions into the app, and we'll get into those afterwards.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining this session today. We thought we'd just give you a sort of a sneak video there because we transformed as a federation early November last year, and transformed to a new brand, a new name, and to a degree a new mandate. And so a lot of the sequences there in that video sort of define what we're doing and where we're going. And so today's session is about data with a purpose, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we collect that data, and how we use it, and why we do that to enhance experiences for our elite athletes, all the way down to grassroots participation as well. Before we go into that, I just want to quickly talk through us as a federation, as IBF, and the slides will work for me here. There we go, one click and we're on our way. So we're the IBF. If we're able to get to that first slide, that'd be quite useful. There we go. It's jumping around at this. Look at this technology. So there we go. We're the international body. Here we go. It's not liking, is it? It keeps on moving around. So we're the international body of. Thank you very much. And so we're 10-pin bowling. So we sort of governing body for 10-pin bowling, 9-pin bowling, and power bowling. We're recognised with the IC and the International Power Olympic Committee as well. We have 140 member federations, which is also growing because when we put 9-pin into this scenario, that number starts to creep up. We work across 5 continents. We have a surplus of over 2 million professional athletes who register to participate in elite sanctioned IBF events, and also other national leagues around the world. Biggest participating sport in America, and we've got some really high growth, fast growth at the moment in Asia, and very much in Korea and Japan specifically. And that growth is also now being explored in the GCC. Next slide, please. So what we've looked to do, we've gone through a process, especially my first 10 months, about what's the opportunity? When we joined here, Andy Orme, the current new CEO, who's been here for 18 months himself, we cleaned the slate to a degree and tried to work out what's the purpose of the international body. Because bowling as an industry is very successful. It's an $11 billion turnover industry. And what can the international body do to enhance that, to get more participation, to educate people to another level, and to share the great sport a little bit more globally. And so we've identified a number of opportunities. Today, though, we're just going to talk about data. So I've only identified here some numbers that we have. As you can see on the slides here, this is 2019 data when bowling centres were fully open and operational. And the great thing about bowling is data is true, because this data comes through the actual APIs and the systems from the centres. So we know that 174 million people at least bowl 4 times a year, and we would look at them to be casual bowlers. But also there's 250 million people who bowl at least once a year, if that's a birthday party or a rainy Sunday afternoon. And the most real one that really sort of stuck out to us as we started to look to what our strategy would be and how we would move forward was that we found out that 94% of these bowling centres were connected through APIs and software that exists already today. So suddenly it wasn't just a pipe dream and an idea that wouldn't it be great if we could do this. Suddenly we realised actually the connectivity was already sitting there. But it's working in isolation. Bowling as an industry would work in isolation and look after itself. And so we realised that actually as a governing body, this is a fantastic opportunity to bring that together and connect all of them bowling centres potentially into one central ecosystem. And so that 94% does equivalent to 208,000 bowling lanes around the world. We go to the next slide. And I want to quickly talk about sort of our own sort of mandate internally. So we've looked to connect the world with the greatness of bowling. And the key focus for this session is to connect the world and how we can do that. And so I'm going to quickly sort of then touch on, just to give some sort of context and sort of visions about where we are in our headspace and what we're doing on content, considering this is an OTT summit. So we've decided that because of the data, because of the high participation within the sport, grassroots is fundamentally critical to us succeeding in this space. And so we didn't want to sort of work top to bottom and so look at the elite product and prioritize elite product and then not have the opportunity or time to actually develop the grassroots. And so rather than top to bottom, we have a strategy to work bottom to top. And so we wanted to build great foundations. And so great foundations would mean, for example, just as a scenario, we will have the ability to capture content. So people will be able to capture content through our plans in many different forms. And the technology that we use and the tools that we have disposed will be used for our elite competitions, let's say our World Cups. But that same technology, them same tools will also be offered to myself or anyone else who's just a grassroots casual bowler or someone who just wants to go and try it out. And so we wanted to ensure that was really critical to sort of our plans going forward. If it's good enough for the top, it's good enough for the bottom of what we're doing. And so with that on content, we have this really good opportunity to create really relevant content there and then, 365 days of the year. And so my vision has always been when we start to look at ecosystems and we start to look at how we're going to bring people on. I think you need to build trust with people. If we can build trust with people, the loyalty will come. If we can build the loyalty even further, then further data sharing of them individuals will be present. And so suddenly that data sharing could be anything from actually sharing with a community around them, the application and the sport of bowling, to educationals or courses, or it could be sharing actual content. And so suddenly our users become actual broadcast lenses. And then broadcast lenses, which will be in operation by these users, will be able to share their content to a community of people who actually care about them. And so we know it's engaging and we know it's connecting. And so that was this sort of some of the sort of just to give you sort of a bit of scope on the content side about how we're going to sort of bring this together from the sporting side, from grassroots, all the way up to the elite level. If we go to the next slide, it will just give us a little headline here of our ecosystem, which is called StrikeCloud, and it's going to be powered by Spark Compass, which Erik will go into details of how. This is going to be an ecosystem where you can watch live, you can self-capture, you can gamify, you can compete, and you'll be rewarded for them actions. So we have a loyalty scheme built within this application as well. And going from that, I think we'll go to the next slide now and let Erik take over for a while and start to talk about the technical side of Spark Compass and how we're deploying it into this ecosystem. Over to you, Erik.
Yes. Oh, great. Yeah, so as you could tell, there's an enormous opportunity here to reach a wide audience that are both participating but also interested in the sport, but also an ecosystem of people that are managing and working with the industry as a whole. Of course, this session is talked about data with a purpose, and this slide really represents that quite well, where we're saying that if we have a system that can enable us to understand and communicate based on data, then all of a sudden we can deliver outcomes. And that's really what this system and this ecosystem does. It's more than just streaming or more than just content delivery as an ecosystem. And of course, if we have an ecosystem that is driven by a platform interface, then all of a sudden we have an app interface that is a bidirectional communication tool where we can activate, we can deliver content, we can unlock content, and we can activate and unlock experiences. Those experiences, as we talked about, is streaming and so forth. We're going to come to that next. But we can also activate retail venues. And of course, with a true ecosystem that is data-driven, then all of a sudden you connect and collect data in every step of the way. That's what we're talking about today, right? It's data with a purpose. And so here's part of the map of the outcomes that we can deliver in an ecosystem like we deliver with Spark Compass. And if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see that we have a total ecosystem here. And this is where it gets exciting. I'm sorry, I'm geeking out a little bit on this slide. But here's the ability to capture data. Capture data, yes, of course, we're talking about content and we're talking about video, but we're talking about supplementary data as well. That's why we talk about contextual intelligence. That's my patent. That's our platform. We call it contextually intelligent communication. And in order to have that, you have to understand context: who, what, where, when, and then the activity. Now, so if you have an ecosystem where you can capture data from the real world, the physical world, right? Part of that is a video stream, but part of that is also, as we saw, the information from the bowling center as such. Right, there's the scorekeeping systems. If you can then also add the features that are embedded within our ecosystem on the app interface, the user interface, then all of a sudden you have that user interface where we understand the user's context. Now, as you will see on this slide, it's obviously a high level of representation of the data flow. We also can communicate not only via a app interface, but also through a TV, through our partners and our solutions into the space of streaming and so forth, but also digital signage within the venue. And that's a key component in that we understand the way that the users interact with our systems. And you will see more about that later. But it's all about delivering the outcomes that you saw previously with the stakeholders that Chris talked about that is participating and partners in the sports, sponsors, venue operators, and of course also those that are providing equipment and managing tournaments within this ecosystem. If you go to the next slide, please. And within the next slide, and this is part of the storyline that we do with Spark Compass, and we're kind of proud of this component that, yes, it's important to articulate and understand the user when they're in venue. We do a lot of things in sports, whether it is in sailing and the America's Cup, or whether it's in tennis with Wimbledon, or whether it's at football or basketball stadiums with universities in the US. But that's a moment of time, right? We communicate with the fan before they come to that venue, or the participant in this instance. We can understand that user's context. And if we can then highlight that context on that journey, the fan journey, the user journey, in every step of the way, then all of a sudden we create an enhanced experience, an enhanced journey, an enhanced relationship with that fan. Now, all of this is data-driven, right? This is all data-driven based on the user's experiences, the user's context. And of course, yes, we can then serve up, unlock content. And here comes the secret sauce with the Spark Compass platform. Our patented process enables us to verify the behavior. Did this information, did this content, did this experience that we unlocked and presented, did that deliver the desired result or not? That's where the intelligence comes in. And that's where you can deepen and enhance the relationship and have a lasting relationship. Not just, quote unquote, just the ability to stream a bowling center or a competition and tournaments, but there's more to it. And that's where we're so excited to work with Chris and the team over at IBF, because they see this value, right? They see this value that we should enhance that journey. We should deepen that relationship and lost that relationship. And this is, again, where understanding user, understanding where they are, then all of a sudden we can communicate with them. If you go to the next slide, and Chris, if you want to take it from here, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, thank you, Erik. I think that's fantastic. So this slide here, we talk about earning rewards, and so we could talk for probably 3 hours about many different ideas of what we do here. So we're just going to sort of focus on a couple that might hit home a bit. And so earning rewards and loyalty is a key part to the application and the ecosystem and what we're doing. And so that will happen in many ways. For example, we as a federation, we're not going to charge people or do any sort of PPV on our content. We're here to build bigger audiences. We want to encourage people to share content and watch content together. And so when people watch content through the ecosystem, we reward them for their actions. So their watch time, whatever it may be, they will be rewarded for the time, because these people are very important to us. These are users, and we want to make sure they're using the platform and they're sharing the platform as well and communicating through it. So from all the way from watching content to capturing content to sharing that content, attending one of our events, purchasing our merchandise, gamification with voting and many other obviously tools that we can put into place here, all the way to booking and actually going bowling itself. And if we go to the next slide, that this is a use case as one use case of many here, actually going bowling and actually catching these datas. So suddenly this is now a new set of data that we can capture. We talked earlier about the connectivity of these bowling centres. So put into place the idea that suddenly you can be here, you can find your local centre, you could book that lane, you could have your profile where you can have your stats tracked, so your average strike rate, your average win rate, whatever it may be, live chat communication, create e-tournaments together virtually. So I could play an individual from Korea and I could be here in Lausanne, and we could have a real-time battle in an actual real-life bowling centre. So sort of taking that esports sort of tournament management concept, but actually placing it into an environment where people actually physically go and play that sport. And so for me, that becomes extremely exciting. And so this gamification element here will be a big chunk of this ecosystem, and the way we want to encourage people. Because through this, we'll be able to educate people, we'll be able to create numbers and numbers of different types of tournaments and different types of challenges. For example, I may decide to challenge Erik that I've just done a score 160, and if he beats my score as a challenge, then maybe he can then take some points away from me from my general total that I've consumed and collected into the ecosystem, for example. So this stuff gets quite exciting. And then the other piece, then we talk about content on this as well, is people can capture as well. So people are able to capture content. So when I'm bowling, Erik's bowling, we can actually see each other as well, and we can communicate in real time together and see what's going on in vice versa's bowling centre. So when you start talking about over-the-top content, true OTT, I look at it and go, well, imagine the scenario where we have 208,000 lanes around the world, and each of them lanes has a commercial screen on them above the lane. If we access that screen and suddenly we put IBF content through that screen, or replays of our actual match against each other on that screen, and there's an average of 5 people on a bowling lane across a day, suddenly you're talking about potentially having a concurrent viewership of over 1 million people 24 hours a day for 365 days of the year. So that's how we sort of approach this as well, because suddenly that's content being shared within an environment where people are actually playing that same concept, which is bowling. So a lot of exciting stuff to happen there. And talking of venues itself, I think we'll throw back to Erik to talk about in-venue and just some of the broader parts of data that we're actually going to capture as well, which fall into place in terms of our proposition to the actual bowling industry.
Yeah, so as you talked about, we'll go quite quickly here towards the end here, but the ability to activate venue is a component of the Spark Compass platform as well, because we talked about connecting the physical with the digital. And so connecting and enhancing experiences as the players are coming into the venues are key. Now, of course, connectivity is a key component to this. I come from Qualcomm, so I was part of inventing the 5G network, so we know that very well. But we also know that there's an IoT component here where not necessarily for a 5G. But the essence is that we capture all this data, we display all the data, and if you go to the next slide, you will see that this is all captured into an ecosystem. This is a quick, and obviously there's a lot more details here, but this is a control panel. This is a way that the ecosystem will be controlling the experiences, delivering content, highly relevant, hyper relevant to the point where it's geofenced. So you're welcome when you come into it, but with beacons potentially inside the centers, we know exactly where people are inside the centers. And that's really where this ecosystem is a delivery of content platform. So yes, there is video content, but there's more to it. And that's where this is a management system, a communication platform that delivers these outcomes at the right time and place. If you go to the next slide, and I'm sorry for going so fast here at the end, and this is a very complex slide, but it's showcasing some of the components of the additional data that we gather. And that's a key thing to articulate here, because when you have an ecosystem like ours, which has been deployed at international airports, in hospital settings, in shopping malls, across entire islands, when you capture this data, that's great. And we're a big proponent of capturing data, but we're doing more. We're taking actions on that data, and then being able to deliver actions on that data and present that for the stakeholders. We talked about stakeholders in the early stage. And of course, under the IBF, one of the stakeholders, one of the key partners within this ecosystem is the venue operators, the bowling alley proprietors. So an ecosystem like this, yes, we have digital signage, and yes, we have experiences that are driven and delivering experiences for the fan. But it's also very important to deliver something of value to the operators, right? They're the member of the federations, the tournament management. So if we can help them with this data gathering system to deliver added benefits, better operations, and optimize their operations, then of course data has another purpose. And that's really where we come together with this whole ecosystem. And that's where we're so excited about this. This is an ecosystem where it's not just, quote unquote, a stadium. It's not just a league or a team. This is an entire global ecosystem where we deliver data with a purpose. If you go to the next slide, you can see that this is an ecosystem. And I know we're towards the end here, and we wanted to show a video towards the end here as well, Chris, so I'll let it go over to you. But the essence of this is that we're capturing data. We act on data. And then, of course, with having the ability to capture the data and acting on the data, we can apply the outcomes on that data. Here at Spark Compass, we like to call it augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a component of what we do. That's a tool set to deliver these outcomes, these improved outcomes. And of course, as this ecosystem gets developed and built over the many years ahead that we're going to do this, it can become smarter, better, and better, and takes the mandate of the Bowling Federation, and that is taking bowling to the next level. That's where this opportunity is enormous. And it's more than just content delivery. It's content enhancement. It's more than just sport as a sport. It is creating a crowdsourced sporting experience. This is hugely exciting. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out here, and I know we're towards the end of the session here, and we have a little, so I'll leave it over to you, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Exciting
Thank you.
time.
No, it's fantastic. It's hard to wrap this up so quickly, and also virtually as well. But no, I think we have a video to play, which sort of wraps up some of what we just said with some visuals in 60 seconds, and then I think we can probably do a quick Q&A off the back of it. So if we run the video, that'd be fantastic.
The International Bowling Federation is launching a new ecosystem designed to revolutionise the world of bowling. Powered by Spark Compass, the new data-driven communication platform will allow the Federation to directly influence and engage bowlers around both professional competitions and casual participation. Fans will be able to interact with broadcasts, VOD and other bowlers globally like never before, and be rewarded for these actions. Capturing data from bowling centres and registered users' mobile devices, it enables actions to be taken on the data, delivering outcomes and offers, unlocking experiences and presenting content to the right person at the right time and place. Based on the existing Spark Compass platform, the system comes ready to launch and will connect the entire bowling ecosystem via data. Bowlers can then watch, play and compete in one place, allowing us to award the right person with the right offers wherever they are on their journey. This is data with purpose. This is Bowling Evolved.
There we go, John.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for taking us through that. I don't know about anyone else, but just the concept of being able to be back in a venue, being with friends, and ultimately throwing a load of gutter balls is quite exciting in its own right. Anyway,
so we can capture that.
I've got a few questions, and we've got sort of 4 or 5 minutes left. So one of the things I sort of wanted to specifically focus on to start with, obviously fans and the participants and also fans of bowling are clearly at the centre of this whole development and sort of all of your thinking. Could you perhaps shed some light on, the thought process behind that, how you're working with the sort of grassroots stakeholders of the sport? If that makes sense. Chris, if I come to you guys first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously we work very closely with our member federations. So we're looking to want to be able to use this ecosystem to be a tool for them for when they have their own sort of other tournaments as well. So we're working very closely as a federation that we offer out this to them to be able to do what they need to do to capture and to start to understand their local audiences. And as well as that, and I've touched on Erik on this one, this whole platform is not just going to be sort of run off by the federation and international space. The international space will be there. Obviously, we'll be across the top, but then there'll be hierarchy and localization of this product that goes to the bowling centres. There's an awful big industry. You say we have an awful lot of elite sort of professional registered bowlers in the world, over 2 million, and so that we've always looked to seek to ensure that we're giving them a service from day one. We communicate with them obviously through our member federations as well. So that's going to be very, very critical to us. And after that, we start to want to use the power of the proprietors. There are fundamental parts to the actual ecosystem and the industry. And we want to ensure as a federation that we also support them and give them tools if required to get more people coming through the door. Because once you start to talk about data and people start to interact, then suddenly we can start to find out, this person's got some talent. So let's make sure we communicate with that person to let them know that they actually can go on a coaching course and start to actually take bowling a little bit more seriously. So, Erik, I don't know if you have any other points on your side technically about how we look at that.
One other component here, which we haven't talked too much about, is that there has to be a simple to use app interface, right? So that's how you can get a massive adaptation. So we're leading with that, but it's powered by the backend system, which is a complex. But it has to be a single sign-on, and it has to be a simple to use. It has to be something that has compelling use cases around for the end users. And by that, by ensuring that and continue to improve that, continue to verify that this is something that's of value to the participants, then we provide that grassroots. And of course, with our ecosystem, global federation, but as Chris said, the ability to have a hyper-local experience. I'm working out of this bowling center at Kuwait. There's a Domino's Pizza around the corner. I'd like to pick up a pizza to take home and watch myself just what I just did in a replay scenario. That's the kind of hyper-local environments that we can enable with this ecosystem. Obviously beneficial for all the parties.
Exactly, yeah, and it's available for everyone. That's the point. People will be able to capture highlights through clickable devices, through APIs, for free. We're not going to charge for that. You know, we're going to encourage people to use the platform, and I think that's a big part of this as well. We're not looking to put a paywall on the front stamp of it and put people off. We want to encourage people to come in to discover and take it from there.
Totally, makes a lot of sense. No, I think we could have probably had at least another couple of hours talking about it. I know it's a few people have been commenting on the Q&A as well. So, I mean, what I would say is anyone listening, I know that Chris and Erik have both said that they're very keen to touch base with everyone separately after the session. So, I highly recommend you reach out. For now, though, that's we're out of time. So, very much appreciate your presentation and wish you best of luck for the rest of the event.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having us.
Exciting times.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.